Ring Constitutional on YouTube says, quote, the current mayor looks like a deer in the headlights. The current mayor looks like a deer in headlights. Ringen, I couldn't agree with you more. Every time, and you can see this on any YouTube interview that you see with him, every time he's asked these hard questions, he dithers. He points the finger at other people. He points the finger at other causes and other problems, but the numbers don't lie. Look at those two graphs that I just showed you. Knife crime, up every single year our current mayor is in office. Violent crime, every single year is up. Every year our mayor is in office. And what is his solution to all of this? And now I want to make my third and final point. His solution is to defund the police. And you can see this headline here, that just recently appeared. And I'll read it out for you. It says, Sadiq Khan announces £500 million cuts plan to London Underground, Met Police, and the London Fire Brigade. And that plan is to defund the police with the latest budget cuts. It's the equivalent of 1,861 full-time salaried officers. Let me ask you, do you think taking nearly 2,000 officers off the streets are going to make those graphs go down? Or do you think they're going to make them go up and up and up? And I want to quote from that article that says, quote, Sadiq Khan has announced a plan to cut City Hall's costs by up to £500 million. Policing, London Fire Brigade, and Transport for London are all set to see significant reductions in their budget over the next 2 years. And that includes that plan I mentioned to defund the police by £110 million. I want to show you another headline that says, police in England and Wales are now facing a new era of austerity. This is something that our current mayor is promoting. Austerity for the same police force that is allowing our teenagers to die on the streets. And the article goes on to quote, the mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has warned the funding crisis endangers the government's pledge to recruit 20,000 extra police officers to fight crime and risks leaving the police, quote, with one hand tied behind their back. The article goes on to say, quote, Khan, who as mayor of London oversees the largest force, the Metropolitan Police, warned the shortfall, quote, could jeopardize our ability to tackle violent crime at this crucial juncture. You think, Mayor? Do you think you defunding them would actually hurt their ability? Of course it would. And the article goes on to say, quote, in a letter sent to the Home Secretary, Khan warned of a, quote, new era of austerity for police with frontline officer numbers under threat and the danger of crime rising. Of course it's going to rise. But I kept doing my research, and it's not just this year that your current mayor of London has been crippling the police force. And the more I go into these numbers, the more it sickens me to see what is actually happening and how it's affecting our children dying on our streets. Back in 2018, the current mayor was forced to admit that the number of police officers per head of population in London was at the lowest point in 20 years, and that police spending per head had fallen faster in London than any other police force on his watch. Quote, City Hall data shows that in 2010, the Metropolitan Police had 4.1 officers per 1,000 Londoners, but that ratio has now dropped to 3.3 officers per 1,000. It's at the lowest point for 20 years. And this is something that's not spoken about. As the population of London has increased from 7 million to 9 million, even if you increase the number of officers, the officers per 1,000 citizens will go down. And this is at the lowest point in 20 years. In addition, we've also seen the largest reduction nationally at 20% here in London, compared to 6% across the country. London now has the lowest number of police officers per capita than any city in the UK. Let me repeat that. London now has the lowest number of police officers per capita than any city in the UK. No wonder violent crime is going up. No wonder knife crime is going up. So how can the mayor expect safer streets if you're going to spend less on police? Just do the math. It's simple. The worst part of this whole situation is while all this is happening, the mayor is pointing the finger. He blames the national government. He blames the police. He blames music. He blames boredom. And meanwhile, it's you and I that suffer because we go out into the streets, we fear for our own lives, our children fear for their own lives, Our children are forced to arm themselves with knives because they fear for their own lives. And then the cycle of knife violence continues and continues and continues. We're 20 years from the anniversary of that shocking killing of a 10-year-old boy here in the streets of London when he was walking home from school. What have we done since then? Very little. And our current mayor of London has done even less.